Just for the weekend, Amanda said, unloading cages from her SUV. I watched, speechless, as she carried in one enclosure after another. 2 bearded dragons, 3 sugar gliders, 4 exotic parrots, 3 ball pythons, 2 fennec foxes, and a monkey, a live, chittering monkey. I have a quick business trip, and you're so good with animals, she added, shoving a stack of papers into my hands. My clinic specializes in domestic pets, I reminded her, but she was already unloading more supplies. Everything you need is in these boxes: food, enclosures, care guides. It'll be easy. Thanks, you're the best. Before I could protest, she was in her car, peeling out of my driveway like the devil himself was chasing her. I turned to my husband Mark, who had just walked in. He took in the chaos. Cages stacked against the walls, a blue and gold macaw eyeing us with unsettling intelligence. Tell me she's coming back for them, I muttered. Mark sighed. It's Amanda. Who knows? We didn't have to wait long to find out. The weekend passed, then a week, then 2. No Amanda. Calls went straight to voicemail. Her apartment? Cleaned out. Social media? Silent. Mark worried, but I had a growing suspicion. This wasn't just another one of Amanda's impulsive adventures. She was running from something. The truth in feathers and fur. Taking care of the animals became my full-time job. The sugar gliders needed fresh fruits and protein at night. The bearded dragons required precise heat levels and calcium-dusted insects. The monkey, whom we named Charlie, needed constant enrichment or he'd start throwing things. A month in, I stumbled onto something disturbing. While organizing Amanda's documents, I noticed inconsistencies. Some paperwork was missing. The fennec fox's permits were blatantly fake. The monkey's import papers, non-existent. I called Mark into the room, spreading the documents across the table. I don't think Amanda acquired these animals legally. Mark ran a hand through his hair. Are you saying? I swallowed. I'm saying your sister might be involved in wildlife trafficking. From his perch, the macaw squawked in Amanda's voice. Quick business trip, quick business trip. We went to the authorities, but without Amanda or solid proof of a crime, their hands were tied. Meanwhile, the animals, trafficked or not, had become my responsibility. I worked with wildlife agencies to legalize their status, securing proper permits or arranging transfers to sanctuaries for the ones I couldn't keep. Then, 6 months after Amanda vanished, Azure, the macaw, started repeating new phrases. The shipment arrives Tuesday, no papers, cash only. They'll never trace it. The bird had been listening and remembering. The return. 1 year to the day since she disappeared, Amanda strolled into my clinic like nothing had happened. I'm here to collect my pets, she announced, adjusting designer sunglasses atop her head. I assumed they're still alive. I looked up from my desk, keeping my expression neutral. Hello, Amanda. Been a while. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Things got complicated. But I'm back now, and I need my animals. All of them. She kept glancing at the door. Impatient, anxious, trapped. Perhaps we should discuss this at home, I suggested. No, now, she snapped. I have arrangements to make, buyers waiting. And there it was, the slip-up. Buyers? I asked lightly. For exotic pets? That must be difficult, given all the regulations. Amanda hesitated for half a second before regaining her composure. Private collectors. People who appreciate rare breeds. Now, about my pets. I stood grabbing my things. You're right, let's go see them. I have something very interesting to show you. Her smirk told me she had no idea what was coming. But after a year of caring for her abandoned menagerie, I had learned more than just feeding schedules. I had gathered evidence. As we stepped into my house, Amanda's confident stride faltered. Gone were the makeshift cages and hastily arranged enclosures she had abandoned a year ago. In their place stood professionally maintained habitats, each equipped with climate control monitors, enrichment activities, and proper housing. Her eyes darted across the room, panic flickering beneath her polished exterior. What is all this? She stammered. A proper exotic animal sanctuary, I said, leading her toward the spare room. It's amazing what you can accomplish in a year. From his perch, Azure announced our arrival in a perfect imitation of Amanda's voice. The shipment arrives Tuesday, no papers, cash only. Amanda froze, her face going ghostly pale. Fascinating creatures, macaws, I'm used. Their memory and mimicry abilities are remarkable. Azure here has quite the collection of interesting conversations. That's nonsense, she sputtered, her voice strained. You can't seriously believe what a bird says. I crossed the room, opening my laptop and pulling up a folder of files. No, but I believe documentation. Like these forged permits you left behind. And these recorded conversations Azure has been repeating. And the GPS data from the trackers several of these animals arrived with. Trackers typically used by wildlife authorities to monitor endangered species. The sugar gliders chirped from their spacious habitat. The bearded dragons basked under proper UVB lights, their scales vibrant and healthy. Even the ball pythons moved with newfound energy in their professionally maintained enclosures. Amanda's composure cracked. You don't understand, she insisted, her voice desperate. These animals are worth a fortune. Private collectors pay top dollar for exotic pets. I was doing them a favor, giving them good homes. Good homes. I gestured to the room around us. They were malnourished when they arrived. Their documents were forged. Some of them had tracking devices from wildlife reserves. They weren't pets, Amanda. They were stolen. She switched tactics, her voice turning syrupy sweet. Olivia, be reasonable. You've clearly invested a lot of time and money. Let me make it worth your while. My buyers are very generous. Your buyers are part of an illegal wildlife trafficking ring, I said flatly. And you? You were their middleman, weren't you? That's why you disappeared, because a deal went wrong. Amanda's expression hardened. You can't prove anything. It's my word against the parrots. Actually, a voice came from the doorway, making Amanda jump. Mark stepped inside, followed by 2 wildlife enforcement officers. It's your word against a lot more than that. I handed one of the officers my laptop. Everything's documented here. The forged permits, Azure's recordings, GPS data from the trackers, and veterinary records of the animals' conditions when they arrived. The officer nodded. We've been tracking this trafficking ring for months. Your evidence could help us take them down. You set me up, Amanda hissed. Your own family. Mark's voice was quiet but firm. No, Amanda. You did that when you dragged us into your crimes. The officers stepped forward, reading Amanda her rights as she struggled against their grip. You can't do this. They're mine. I paid for them. One of the officers shook his head. Several of these animals have been identified as stolen from wildlife reserves and sanctuaries. They were never legally yours. As they led Amanda toward the patrol car, she twisted to glare at me. You'll regret this, both of you. Mark put his arm around me as we watched her disappear into the back seat. You okay? I exhaled, looking around at the animals we had spent the last year protecting. The fennec foxes peeked from their enclosure, ears twitching. The sugar gliders chirped softly in their expansive habitat. Even Azure seemed to watch with a knowing glint in his eye. You know what? I said. I am. As the officers cataloged evidence, they praised the level of care we had provided. Your work here is impressive, one told me. With the proper certifications, you could legitimately run a sanctuary. Mark found me later, watching the fennec foxes play with their enrichment toys. What you did, taking care of them, standing up to Amanda, gathering evidence, it was incredible. I leaned into him, feeling the weight of the past year settle into something lighter. I couldn't just let it go. Once I realized what was really happening, Azure picked that moment to chime in with another of Amanda's old conversations, premium prices for exotic pets. I smiled, offering him a treat. Exactly. They deserved better. But as I watched the animals settle in for the night, a thought nagged at the back of my mind. Amanda wouldn't go down without a fight, and her connections ran deep. The fallout from Amanda's arrest was immediate. Within days, unfamiliar cars began lingering near our property, their tinted windows concealing whoever was inside. Anonymous threats appeared in our mailbox, each more sinister than the last. Mind your own business. Drop the charges. Accidents happen. The message was clear. Amanda's arrest had rattled her associates, and now they were watching us. I wasn't about to take chances. We upgraded our security system. Motion sensors, reinforced doors, floodlights triggered by the slightest movement. The animal's room became a fortress, with a keypad entry and surveillance covering every angle. Some might call it paranoia, but I'd seen firsthand what these people were capable of. 3 weeks later, I arrived at my clinic to find the door lock broken. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was touched. But the violation was deliberate. A message, a warning. They knew where to find me. That night, as I checked on the animals, a strange stillness filled the room. Azure, normally a non-stop chatterbox, went abruptly silent, his sharp eyes locked on the window. "Mark," I called softly, heart hammering. "Did you see that?" My husband moved carefully, staying out of sight. A shadow flitted across our backyard, someone lurking in the darkness. We called the police, but by the time they arrived, the intruder was gone. No footprints, no evidence, just the lingering sense that we were being hunted. The next morning, a call came from the wildlife enforcement officers. They had uncovered the true scale of Amanda's operation. 3 continents, dozens of smugglers, corrupt officials, illegal holding facilities uncovered through the GPS trackers we'd salvaged. Your sister-in-law was just the tip of the iceberg, Officer Martinez explained grimly. These people won't take kindly to their operation being exposed. We're offering you protection. But protection came with a cost. We had to testify, not just about Amanda, but about everything we had discovered while rehabilitating her abandoned animals. That night, as I prepared the evening feeds, Mark leaned against the counter, watching me. "We don't have a choice," he said. "These animals deserve justice, and so do the others still out there." Azure fluffed his feathers and mimicked Amanda's voice, her words chilling in the quiet room. "They'll never trace it." Oh, but we had. The trial preparations consumed our lives. Every forged document, every recorded conversation, every GPS ping was meticulously compiled. Our home transformed into a war room, legal teams, wildlife experts, and law enforcement cycling through at all hours. Then came the next threat. A note slipped under the clinic door. "Drop the charges or the animals disappear." I handed it straight to Officer Martinez, who added it to the growing case file. Our unexpected guardians, however, were the fennec foxes. Their hypersensitive hearing caught the faintest disturbances, ears swiveling toward unseen movements long before we noticed. The sugar gliders, normally playful, froze whenever someone unfamiliar approached, a natural security system we learned to trust. Then, 2 months into the case, Amanda made bail. Her first move? She sued me, claiming ownership of the animals, accusing me of theft. Her lawyer, a slick, sharp-eyed man in an expensive suit, served me in the middle of my clinic, his smirk infuriating. "Your rehabilitation permits don't override her ownership rights," he said smoothly. "These are exotic pets, not stray cats." But Amanda had underestimated me again. I didn't just rehabilitate these animals. I documented everything. Every vet visit, every sign of malnourishment, every transaction tied to illegal acquisitions. The sanctuaries I worked with provided statements about the animals' conditions upon arrival. Starved, traumatized, some near death. The lawsuit backfired spectacularly. Instead of regaining the animals, Amanda had just handed the prosecution even more evidence. Proof of her neglect, her illegal dealings, and her desperate attempt to erase her crimes. Her lawyer withdrew quietly. She had nowhere left to run. As the trial date neared, our home became a battleground. Witnesses prepped their statements. Law enforcement finalized their findings. The animals, remarkably, remained calm, as if sensing the justice they were about to receive. The day before court, I sat in their sanctuary, watching them settle in for the night. Azure preened his feathers, the fennec foxes curled up in their den, the sugar gliders stirring as dusk fell. Even the ball pythons seemed more alert, their tongues flicking at the air as if sensing change. "We're ready," Mark said, stepping beside me. "The evidence is airtight. The authorities have tracked down most of the ring." I stroked Azure's feathers. Over the past year, he had become more than just evidence. He was family. They all were. They tried to treat them like merchandise, I murmured. But there's so much more than that. The trial lasted 3 grueling weeks. Amanda sat stone-faced as the evidence unfolded. Azure's recordings played, her own voice damning her with every word. The GPS data mapped out smuggling routes across continents. Expert witnesses detailed the telltale signs of wildlife trafficking, neglect, forged papers, animals stripped from their natural habitats for profit. When the verdict came, it was swift. Guilty. On multiple counts: wildlife trafficking, animal cruelty, conspiracy, and operating a criminal enterprise. The judge's sentence was severe, 15 years without parole and crushing fines. As they led Amanda away, she turned to me one last time, venom in her voice. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed your own family for a bunch of animals." I met her gaze, unwavering. "No, Amanda," I said. "You destroyed our family the moment you chose profit over innocent lives. I chose to protect them." The aftermath brought unexpected change. Our home was officially recognized as a rehabilitation center for rescued exotic animals. Wildlife authorities began bringing us more animals recovered from trafficking operations. The spare room expanded into a full sanctuary wing. One evening, Mark and I stood in the sanctuary, watching the sunset filter through the reinforced windows. Azure shredded a toy on his perch. The fennec foxes dozed, and the sugar gliders stretched their limbs, preparing for another night. "You know," Mark said, "when Amanda dumped these animals on us, I thought it was just another one of her messes. I never imagined it would lead to this." I smiled, offering Azure a treat. Sometimes the worst situations bring the best outcomes. They needed someone to fight for them. And in return, Azure tilted his head, then mimicked my voice perfectly. "They're family now." I laughed softly, brushing my fingers along his bright feathers. He was right. We couldn't have said it better ourselves.